Call to order, the airport board, for April 26, 2023. The roll call, I'm Colton Roberts.
Clyde Stansfield.
Corey Lang, Toby Wolfinger.
J.R. Bird.
Okay, let's go over our minutes. Is there any, thing that anybody sees in the minutes that we need to talk about from last meeting on January the 24th? Or concerns, or see something wrong? Let's see what we're looking at. Oh, is Kim joining us?
I thought she was going to. She accepted the calendar invitation, and I did provide a Zoom link, but let's see. Oh, 2 people in the waiting room. I'm just slacking. I'm
I was
sorry.
gonna say, I thought that was.
There we go. Yes, she is here. That was my bad.
Oh, Kim and Neil.
We started with.
There's Neil.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Good, okay, we just did call the order, just did the roll call. And, then we're just going through the minutes. Do you have the minutes in front of you guys? Oh, okay.
They don't vote on them anyway.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, if there's no question on minutes, then I motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, let's take, y'all in favor? Okay.
We might vote for sure.
Is there any opposites? All right, let's go to our items. The first one we got is hangar lease agreement.
So I have these hangar lease agreements, they just came out, we weren't able to get it to everybody, but Grant did get it to us yesterday. So I guess probably don't need to discuss a whole lot where nobody has seen it yet. But, and what I'd like to do, because we're trying to get this on our meeting for the 16th of May, so we can approve these, we'll send out copies to everyone, including you, Kim and Neil, and see what you guys think. The one is the main hangar lease, so keep that in mind. It's going to be our main hangar that we will lease just spots in the main hangar. So we don't expect a whole lot of feedback on that one unless you see something way out of line. Does that make sense? On the other one, however, is our ground lease. We just want to make sure that we're conforming to FAA standards in what we're asking and requiring. But I keep holding up the same paper, but it's it's the wrong paper. Anyway, just maybe take a look at that one as well. That was a little more critical as far as the ground leases.
Sunshine,
Yes.
is there a screen we could be looking at instead of?
I actually just, it's set to that? I thought I had it set to. You should be seeing the same thing that the YouTube people are seeing, which should be the members of the board. I'm not sure why.
What are you seeing, Kimberly?
Right now I'm seeing the headshots, me, and then the room, the cameras from the room that you guys are in. I didn't know if there's something on the
Oh, no, we didn't have anything up.
I did, however, Mayor Bird just barely gave me those agreements, and I did just update the calendar invite by dragging and dropping them in there. So the agreements he's referring to, like seconds ago, were put on that calendar. So you can see them now.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so we can look at the lease agreements. I just want to make sure if you guys are looking at lease agreements, I want to look at it.
Right. So the only thing I see so far on the property lease is the term is 15 years. I wouldn't build a hangar if I only had a 15-year term, but how does that work? What are your thoughts on that, Kimberly, and the rest of the group? I mean, how long should that lease be?
Well, the biggest problem I see that a lot of people ask me they asked specifically about that lease because a bank won't give them a loan or anything for turf building. Because, you know, they don't own the ground, like, okay, well, if it's not past almost a 20-year lease, then we're not, you know, it like stops hangar building on the GA side.
Okay. And our previous lease was a 30-year lease.
It was, and that was a pretty long one, but, I mean, banks like that better, you know, but. I don't, Kim, do you have any, suggestions or input on that or advice?
So I've seen a lot of units of leases, 30-year leases are still acceptable. It's kind of the very longest you wanna go on an initial term though. You know, I think 15 years, you know, if the issue is not really, is there, the banking, is there a possibility that, you know, with renewals, what the terms of the renewals would be, like automatic renewals for another 10 years? I think if you're gonna go 30, you wanna have shorter renewal periods.
What
But
about,
that's just,
what about 20 years?
well, I mean, that all is, I'm just trying to think like a little bit of what I've seen, we can't, that's not something I don't think we can actually advise on. But what we can do is forward these to the FAA and get their opinion on it, and what their policies are and such. So they'll comment on the not the rates itself, but the terms. And they'll just say whether that's acceptable or things like that. So they will review your releases if you want them to.
I mean, 20-year ones,
I think.
20 is great, I mean, I would love a 30 too, I think anybody would like the longer they could go, but.
Well, let's just say.
One of the concerns, guys, if I can interject,
Yeah.
with those kinds of terms, 20, 30 years, is just making sure that over time you're continuing to
Escalation.
get, fair market value.
Yeah.
for the-
Right.
So, a lot of times people want that long lease because the locks them in.
Right.
I think you can issue a long lease, you just need to make sure that you've got terms that allow you to increase.
Every 5 years.
Yeah, it has already in section 4 of the lease, under compensation, it says compensation shall increase at a rate of 3% each year thereafter. So it already has an escalation clause in it.
Yeah, that's good, 3%, you may even consider 3% or, some additional change, I mean, we saw, a year ago, we were looking at 8% inflation, so
Mhm.
you wanna have a little comfortable room there, but, yeah, that's good, if you have something like that, I think that makes everybody a little more comfortable with the terms of 20.
Especially those longer ones.
Mhm. Yeah. So we've thought about a lot of those things. We've looked at this quite a bit and went back and forth on it. What do you guys feel about commercial versus
Residential or.
private? I don't know what you would call it. So Vernal does one lease, and if they utilize the property for commercial use, then there's certain stipulations requirements that they have to meet. But it's all in one lease, and so we were thinking about doing the same thing. Or do you think there's a need to have 2 separate leases and 2 completely separate terms?
When you say stipulations, what do you mean? Not a stipulation in terms of a different rate,
Yeah,
other requirements.
I think there could have been a different rate, but the main thing was insurance requirements. So if you're a commercial business, you're held to a higher insurance.
And that more liability or something.
Yes, right.
Well, do you think the community would stomach a different rate for commercial versus private ground lease? Most places I've seen just have a straight lease rate.
Do
So
that.
much per foot. But you can do that if it's somebody who's operating on the airport and is, making their own revenue
we've seen several. There are places that have commercial. We've seen several examples of that.
Yeah.
So,
I know there are, it's not been very common in my experience, but I know they do that.
and we didn't in the past. Vernal, I think their rate is a little different, but it's not astronomically higher. It's, a little
Couple
above.
cents
Yeah,
per foot.
right. But if I'm open to not, we want to encourage growth at our airport. That's why we're reworking these. When these were overhauled a few years ago with our previous administration, their intent was to keep everybody out. And so our rate for just a regular ground lease was one of the highest in the state, and our commercial rate was the second highest. So, yeah. So that's one of the things we wanted to look at. But if you guys feel, and I don't know how this group feels, if we want to, because the whole point is to get people there, because if we have commercial businesses there, we're going to have people flying in, they're going to be buying fuel, they're going to be, needing places to hang their airplanes. And
I think from an airport standpoint, go back to the time lease on it, it's like, if people build hangars, they'll fill them. If they fill them, we get gas, that's like the main thing we're making. The next thing is, it's like, depending on how restricted we get with commercial businesses, so it's either we set it so a commercial business comes in, and they basically gotta be a multi-million-dollar business. Some, to have insurance to cover, because it's like, I could get hangar insurance for what I do, and it's about, like, they want $50,000 a year.
oh, really?
Yeah, and that was to cover me. They would give hangar insurance, like it was me mechanicing.
Oh, well, that's a totally
But like, but trying to find the hangar insurance was like,
insurance on that here. Every hangar out on our
but like having an
Insurance.
operation in the hangar was, no, they're like, no, they wouldn't even talk to us. They're saying, well, you gotta have, shows your taxes, how much are you making, it went into like such a.
Well, that's normal though, and the reason is because they base the general liability insurance on your annual revenue, and really it's not that expensive unless you're pumping out a high dollar amount. So, for example, Paragon, I have to have a certain like $2-3 million policy, and that the amount that I pay is directly tied to myself.
Right. There was,
So,
their main thing was, what kind of aircraft are you bringing in? And so it's like, they says, okay, you can only bring in these type of aircraft because your insurance. So if you had a turbine on it, then it's no. But anyway, no, I agree. We need to try to make it so that we can bring in commercial businesses and not make it limiting like the previous administration.
There's also to differentiate between aeronautical and non-aeronautical commercial. So if we're running like what Fulton's doing, is running an aeronautical commercial business out of hangar. There could be other people that would want to come in and have hangar, house their aircraft there, and use that for their business. But they're running a business that's not aeronautical
yeah.
related. And I've seen those are usually higher, because it's not aeronautical. But that's also an option. I don't want to confuse or conflate, but just want to make sure that.
But that does sound good to have the commercial part all in like one lease. If it's just like, if you do decide commercials, you don't have to have.
Right.
Two leases that get lost.
Right. Where you would want to differentiate between aeronautical and non-aeronautical, but should you get a lot of demand? Get a lot more demand for business acres. That might be
I'd like to see rentals, because it'd be nice if it was just one lease, and then we're like, here's one lease, this is it. If you wanna do something different, it's in the lease, not have to try to have two, and then different prices, and then they get lost, and we're always trying to reestablish what's what. If we get the ground costs, lease, then that. Perfect deal.
One thing I just look at, I've got the the cheap spreadsheet that I've shared with you guys before, but, it's Wyoming rates and charges just to see what other airports are doing. It is a little bit dated at this point, it's 2018. But I wanted to also mention the adjustment, you said you have a 3%, and it's showing in here, actually, you have a 3% a year increase on your rates. So, yeah, it's showing your commercial ground is 0.35 and your just ground lease, regular ground lease is 0.2.
That's
So
fine.
35 cents. What Vernal's showing that they're doing is 3% increase after review of CPI and comparable airports in the region. 3% increase can be adjusted to meet the research.
And where are they starting out at?
That's an annual adjustment.
Right, and that's what we would anticipate as an annual adjustment. So,
Right, but they're compared to the CPI, so I think that when you know, inflation last, years has been astronomical.
But- so they could raise the rate higher than the 3% if the CPI was higher? Okay, where are they at? What's the starting number? Did it show in the lease that you were reading?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
The price per square foot.
Oh, they're showing it's from 2018, it's showing 22 cents for the commercial and 18 for the regular.
Yeah,
So it's less than yours. Both counts.
yeah, lower than that, you're right. And that's what I kept arguing. I kept arguing here. Look, they've got security fences. They have 2 FPOs. They have all this other stuff. We don't have any of that, and you're going to charge us more, or not charge us because I already have lease, but charge people more. They really were not wanting to see.
Yeah. That. Okay,
Right.
so,
St. George, their ground leases are 22 cents, which is 2 cents more than your regular ground leases. But their commercial development, so,
Who's that?
but that's a whole different, whole different.
so do we need to approve anything or try to work anything out?
We're getting feedback, really. This needs to get done as soon as possible.
Okay.
Because we're wanting to get people back in the main hangar, but we're not wanting to let people back in the main hangar without.
Do we need to do anything
So
on the main?
the main hangar, let's ask this real quick, because I think the main hangar is straightforward. It is, like I said, it's about where we want it. The only question is, what amount do we charge? What do you think is fair?
Honestly, when the hangar's done, it's gonna be a nice hangar. 300 is about this average, you know, it's actually, if you went to Salt Lake, probably 4 to 5, 300 nationwide is about typical for a single engineer.
And what were we charging Sunshine? 150, and I think that's because Howard went and gave everybody a really good bill to all his friends.
He did.
I don't think that's what he charged.
I don't think-
When he was collecting,
Yeah.
I think it was probably 250, 300 is kind of what I heard.
Yeah,
But when it was turned over to the city to collect, I think he was like, oh yeah, just 150, which is nothing.
no, it's not, you can't find a teen hanger for that,
No.
outside.
So my thought was anywhere from 200 to 300, and just wondering where the rest of the board, what they felt.
300 sounds, that's fair, you're not gonna go somewhere else and get cheap, I don't know of a place that's cheaper than 300.
They checked in Vernal and.
Yeah,
They
there's no hangar spaces,
They could find.
you can, if you can find one.
What's Vernal charging over at, like, now it's Classic, I think.
Yeah,
What's
well, now it's like $6.
Yeah.
Well.
Well, I don't know, but if they really hangar people in there for like long term,
Oh,
I think they kind of just do overnight. If you like want it overnight kind of thing, but I don't think they like monthly stuff, but do we need to make a motion for that, or is that something that'll have to be just set by city?
That'll be set by city council.
Okay.
But we want opinions,
Okay,
from this.
I say 300.
300 is a fair price.
Fair.
It is fair, you're not
I don't
gonna,
want to go.
even if you found a hangar, I don't think you could get 300. It was open, you really couldn't in today, it just doesn't exist.
300.
Okay.
I mean, if that's what the going rate is, then yeah,
It's pretty close to that for,
it's actually probably a little more.
it is actually probably, it's probably 350 to
Yeah.
400 for a hangar space, if you wanted one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll present that to the council and we'll see, and this one we can get approved in our next council meeting.
and in this hangar piece,
Mhm.
what, is there any stipulations on people in there, or who can be in there, or?
Well, that's the other thing.
So I'm just wondering, because I'm wondering all the time about Sunshine, do we have the waiting list here that's, I mean,
I don't know. who's
we have the waiting
managing
list
that.
now, okay.
I don't know if she had, but there is kind of.
Taylor's creating. one.
Taylor, okay,
Yeah,
it's Taylor.
he's creating one, and I give him who I know so far.
Okay, because everybody that asks me, I say, go into the
Right.
city office,
Yeah.
and then he'll know you're
We're working
asking.
on that, he's gonna do a spreadsheet.
And put your name down, because I've had probably 4 people ask me, and, because they wanna buy planes, but they don't wanna buy them if they don't have the hangar space.
Maybe what we do is add to this one that they agree not to give the code to any,
They need to.
is that what you're thinking, or?
Well,
Or
here's
they get a,
you can get a fob key like Flight has, so you just have a badge and it knows when you go in, instead of giving a code out, because
Yeah,
they
just let some people.
you just let those people in. But the other thing is what airplanes are we allowing in? It's just like, I know we got, that Beach Baron that's in there, and I don't know if it'll ever move, and that's a completely different story.
yeah, that one stays.
But letting airplanes that sit in there for years on end that just don't move.
They-
Flat tires, they just using it as a cheap storage place because there's nowhere else, but they don't ever fly the aircraft.
$300 a month isn't gonna be cheap. That'll motivate them to.
Well,
That's the dude.
mhm.
If you do the lease with them, this is how much.
That's true. It's a lot of places will say, okay, if your airplane isn't in annual or being flown, it goes out because people do it. Say, well, you gotta have a $500,000 airplane, but $300 a month, I'm just gonna keep it in there, even if I don't fly it, maybe I don't wanna sell it, but it's a place I can put it. Or it's like we have that ultralight in there, and I look at that and I say, that's an insurance hazard for the city, because it's not really, it's like putting a 4-wheeler with a parachute in. It's not, you don't have to be a pilot for it. And, if it starts up and it goes across the hangar, and it's not really a certified plane, and there's other people that have planes
Not supposed to say.
that are expensive, that they're saying, well, I'd like a hangar space, but we have a $1,000, not even an aircraft type of thing. So I'm just wondering, like in our lease agreements, do we need to say, okay, it needs to be a flying serviceable aircraft in some form type of thing. We're not just putting in whatever. Because I know people say, well, man, I want to buy a 210, but this guy has an airplane in here and I can't, it kills our airport, because that's, that guy fills up a 5-gallon tank maybe, and the 210 fills up 90 gallons when he flies. It just brings the business.
I just think the price, we monitor that with the price of the hangar.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is, if you have
Drive it.
have an ultralight, you're most likely not gonna pay $300 a month to keep it in there. And if you do,
I guess.
cool. And if we raise the rates, because maybe we want to see people move, because that person that flies a 210 may pay $500 a month. But that ultralight's not going to, I can tell you that. You
Okay.
can buy an ultralight every year.
That's a good point.
But
It is.
Yeah.
No, okay, that's a good point. So we'll cause the rent to drive
Yeah,
who's in there. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay.
Just because if you think about it, we have 3 planes in there. Right now, our subsidy on the airport is, the last time I checked, and it's been a year or so, was around, and that's before the fuel started going up. So it was around 40,000 a year is what we subsidize the airport. But we've never really collected much of the rent on the main hangar. Just in the main hangar alone, if we collect 300 and we have 5 planes in there, that's 1,500 a month. That's
great.
like almost 20,000, close to 20,000 a year.
Uh-huh,
That cuts our subsidy right in half right off the bat.
right. No,
So-
that's great.
For sure.
Okay, okay, that sounds great then.
But I get what you're saying.
It's,
And I don't know if we put it in the lease, but I do think maybe we have the lease, and then there may be a few things that we might want to add to this as far as making sure that they're not giving access to the hangar to people that don't have planes and things like
and
that.
here's another thing with the lease, and I don't know if it says it in there. Because someone called me because they were trying to buy Dr. Larson's aircraft,
It's
which,
gone.
is it gone now?
It's sold gone.
So, because Howard was selling it, so the caller talked to me and they said, "Oh, we didn't know this was Dr. Larson's. But if we buy it, did we get the hangar spot?" He said, because Howard says we're grandfathered in. And I said, no. So, if that's another mentality that people think they have a hangar spot and they sell the aircraft, they just don't get the lease with
The lease is with the individual.
My understanding, the people that bought it's from St. George.
Right, and this was some other people that were local and they was gonna buy it and then they didn't, but when I heard that, I was like, okay, thanks.
And it should, I don't know if it has a transfer. It does not, and so I'll make sure that it says in there that it cannot be, this lease cannot be basically, well, it shows it in this one, so it has, subletting or assigning. I'll just have him add this paragraph to this one. It is expressly covenanted and the tenant agrees that he may not sell, rent, assign, or sublet this lease, the property, or any part thereof without the express written consent of the landlord. So
Yeah,
we'll put number 10 in this one, and it won't be, the only thing that'll change is instead of the property, it would just be the hangar space.
okay. Yeah, I was like, okay, we can't have people grandfathered in, because then.
That's how I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, that was.
And I think we need to make sure in the hangar, main hangar, now that it's all clean, it's all nice, we can go around and put numbers and, spot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many spots there are.
Right?
And then whoever we lease to, they know they have,
Space one.
This is their space.
yes, exactly. And that way they know where they park their plane, nobody gets confused or upset, and
Right.
Does
that's
it,
the way
does
it
it
goes.
say there, this happened, which it shouldn't.
I would even like to mark it on the
Yeah.
floor almost, so that, get your average size wing, make sure there's plenty of space, but then mark it on the floor so that if somebody is
Does it say
encroaching in somebody else's spot,
we allow to
it's not
have
an issue.
besides the airplane in there, like, they want to have a case of oil, which that's fine, but some people.
As long as it fits in their
Their face.
space, I think that would be fine.
So we had that little tiny shelf, we put that back in.
That's up
The
to you
big
guys.
shelving, we took out.
Yeah, we don't
have
use that
little
big shelving at all.
We've got different spaces. I mean, I just figured, they could put their Windex
And stuff, yeah.
Yeah, a few little shelving's not bad. Big one, we're not doing mechanic work.
No, we took that all out.
Gives you more
We'll
room
use
to,
it-
Yeah.
Use it somewhere else.
and that's what we do, so I
I
just
don't,
made a note
It
there
doesn't
for
make it
layout
really
space,
good,
layout space and number,
yeah.
layout space, and number.
Mhm.
And we'll take measurements and make it like equal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would get like a 210
Yeah, that's pretty difficult, yeah.
and get the wingspan on a 210 and then see how many will fit that way, yeah. Because you could fit 5 in there pretty easily.
Like 35 foot.
They're about
38.
38, 30. Like,
I say we do 40, and you wanna give them a little,
Well, let's measure it,
yeah, measure it, make sure, yep, 38 to 40,
with all that stuff out there.
that's what I mean, it's gonna be,
does it say in this lease agreement that you cannot start your aircraft in the hangar?
Yeah.
yeah, that's a.
Is that not in our?
I don't know about
That's
It's not in
in
our
there,
policy.
yeah,
In the policy?
it's actually in there.
And I actually got-
Maybe not.
I actually got a sign. We're gonna
We have a
hang
sign.
up.
Okay. That,
Haven't made,
Do we want it in here?
They should, so that they're.
I read it all.
Yeah,
It's
it's on
you
policy.
cannot
Okay.
start an engine in the hangar.
So, and that's what I'm
So we-
wondering, instead of putting a lot of this in the lease, we just refer to the policy
There you go.
and just basically say,
Yeah.
you'll comply with, you'll agree to the, and
Yeah.
comply with the policy.
Dr. was doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did a
He was
lot.
starting it and brought it.
Make it
It's like,
right.
you're not
I
supposed
need
to
a
do
copy,
that.
I need a copy of that policy.
And as it's saying, policy, like, we don't want vehicles in there, so.
Well, that's what it said.
Said
There's
that
no
too.
vehicles
No
allowed.
vehicles.
You're not supposed to start your engine in the hangar.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be outside the hangar
Okay.
when you start it.
Alright.
Yeah.
I hit him up
Yeah.
about that. I said, you're not supposed to be flying that out of here. He goes, well, I can't pull it out there. Because- And I fly it in too. And I'm going, well, that's even worse.
It is worse.
He was coming in there going like
Taxiing
that.
right in.
He was taxiing in there. And
Blast
then he
everybody
was
in.
pushing
And then-
straight back. What?
Hi, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is it referred to the Roosevelt Municipal Airport Rules and Regulations from 9/21/21?
I think,
That's published on our, airport portal.
Yeah.
It's a-
Okay.
Okay, all right,
yeah.
Good deal.
okay, well, that sounds good. Well, we'll agree with that and move on to, okay, the AWOD. Yeah, go ahead.
Again, we have a few more minutes before I need to jump off. Is it okay if we look at item number 4?
Yes, well, yeah,
And then I've got to leave as well, so.
go ahead.
The other's just. Go ahead, Neil.
I don't have anything to bring up. I just want to move on to that discussion since I've got to jump off in about 5 minutes.
Item 4D, or is that, or,
Yeah, the land acquisition.
okay, yeah,
I can speak to that, yeah, so,
Good.
Can you let me share? I've got the exhibits up if you wanted to.
You're gonna have to remind me how to do that.
No, I'm not allowed.
No, I'm happy to let you do that, I just don't do it enough on Zoom to know how, so you're gonna have to tell me.
Oh,
what
it says those because disabled participants sharing. Okay, that's fine.
you can, right there where it says share screen,
Where?
right there at the bottom, down right there.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you.
So go ahead and show the exhibit, Kim, and then I'll kind of give a brief update where we're at with the landowner.
Yeah. Are you seeing it?
Yep.
So I've got two, and I can go back to them. This is the commercial, this is the, what does that say? Oh, it doesn't have the combined square footage.
Yeah, but
Oh, yeah,
it's about 8 acres, that one.
that one is, and then this one's like
Yeah.
4.
Yeah. And so he said that he would be open to either. I just don't know that we can afford what he's asking. So the number he threw out is 50 an acre. Mhm. So, but he did mention, and I did talk to our attorney about, you see the south, where the cul-de-sac is, and then the south part of the road in his subdivision. So he said, well, what if he were to do the road that runs east and west, and then Roosevelt City pay to do the road running north and south, and then he'd just give us that land. And so we talked to the attorney and to see if we could do that, and he said we could, because we're getting something for it. But the other thought was if we can go and look at getting grants or something like that, then it's not using taxpayers' money our taxpayers, Roosevelt City taxpayers' money to pay that. It might cost Roosevelt City half of what it normally would, and then basically get the land discounted at a discounted price. Does that make sense? So if we were able to go and get grants towards building that road, and let's say the road cost us $100,000, and the rest was done with grants and whatever other road projects we could fit in, then the land would, instead of cost us 200,000, would cost us 100,000. So we're kind of looking at some of those things, and that's kind of a far out. It's
How
like
many acres was that?
4.
It was
Oh,
4.
That one right there's 4.
So it's 50,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
That's
it is.
too.
And if we did the 8, it would be 400,000.
Exactly.
But we,
Um,
and we probably shouldn't be talking a whole lot about prices right here, but it's okay because we're not negotiating. This is just what he said. We'll bring this up to council in a closed session, and the council will negotiate from there.
Yeah.
Meaning, we'll come up with a number that we feel is fair, and then we'll get back to him. Yeah,
That's just to reclaim that acreage, right, or those top pieces
Yeah.
there, right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think my only take on that matter there is I'd encourage you to stretch as far as you're able to get as much of that property as possible, even if that means that even if that line doesn't have to be exactly straight. You might take a little bit more on some of those parcels to the east or something like that.
So go so far over, and then
And then jog that, keep going, just offering some thoughts.
well,
This is the prime space for future hangar development based on what's currently out there.
yeah.
So I think, anything you can do to offer a little bit more space would be helpful. Granted, I understand all the constraints, all the costs and everything associated, but my encouragement would be to go for the grants, go get the stretches as much as you can now. Future advantage. That's all.
Mayor, do you think the fair market value for that land is over or less than what the landowner wants?
Well, the lots that I'm interested in, and I don't know, man, they finally said that they're ready to sell after about 8 months, and now I'm not sure if I'm wanting to buy because I talked to the same property owner, and I might get property a little cheaper because the lots that I'm buying, they were for sale at, or at least I have them under contract at around 65,000 an acre. Now, of course, that's, the further you get away from a main road, everybody knows that the back property is worth a lot less than the front property, and where those are not quite as deep, and most of the properties on the frontage, you know what I mean, because it'd be super wide and not so deep, it's a lot more usable. I can see where, somebody would be willing to pay a little more for that. I still think that I was paying too much, and so I think he's still a little high, especially for the back property that he's asking. I'm guessing around 30, 25, 30 maybe, I don't know. I hate to say a number because we're on the record, but I think he's
I thought it was above or below fair market value.
well, I think it's above fair market value. And me sharing what I'm paying is not a big deal, but I think he's above fair market value. I think he's a little high. What?
The reason I ask is because if you do want to follow the federal route, and seek reimbursement, from the feds on this, they will pay fair market value based on the assessments that are done. And so anything that is paid over that fair market value is goodwill and is the responsibility of the buyer.
Sure. What I did is I
In
asked.
addition to that, I would just add that if you do go the federal route, you tie up that land with federal obligations.
Yes.
Lender,
Yeah.
which limits the uses of that land in the future, so.
Right, which, if we're just looking at this smaller sliver, then, that may not be a big deal.
Probably not a big deal, but that's the constraint.
Yeah.
Aviation use only really is what happens.
Right, and I think point of view, our intent, I remember, was that this would widen it up to allow vehicle road or on the back to get back here, and then here we have enough room to do hangars and have a vehicle access road along the stack wall.
Yeah,
That's kind of the preliminary thoughts out there. Of course, we're still working on designing layout and stuff, but where that line ends up being will help us figure that out a little bit.
And we'll use that in.
You see that drainage canal? Did you see the water that ran through that drainage canal?
Yeah. It's not good. Well, I gotta go, but I had Drew do, instead of doing a,
You can do
what do you call it?
Is that what the?
Anyway, I just told him to get with a couple of real estate agents and do a market analysis on it, so we can kind of get an idea. Instead of doing an appraisal,
Yeah.
because the appraisal will cost.
Thank you, Mayor, thank you. That's a sign up too.
But yeah, the appraisal will cost, but we can get a market analysis from the real estate agents and they can give us an idea of really what it's worth. So at least we're in the ballpark. So, all right, see you guys.
Where you were at to, yeah,
road in that drainage, you can go all over that.
no,
It's like, okay, where are you
exactly.
gonna do that?
Okay, I guess, we're all done with that. We'll go to the AWAC system update.
I've got a little update on that, actually a big update. So David with DBT showed up today and started on that, Kim.
He listed here just to send an email today, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, you did well. Yeah, so he has started on that, and that was just today. So that's where we're at on that. And he continues, he's gonna continue working on it, right, Clyde, is our understanding. And we are gonna look at getting a lift for him on part of that. But like Clyde said, we advised him tomorrow, at least looking at the weather, high wind advisory. So he might want to work on some things lower or, inside instead of,
He's gonna need help.
he will need help. Yeah.
Hanging and stuff. But
And
the AWAS is completely down right now because our computer was down last week.
yeah, I told Kim that.
And she already know that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I told her it was down. So that's where we're at on that. But the good news is it's actually got started.
That's right.
Perfect. Okay, well, I guess we'll go to the hangar roof update.
Yeah, me and Clyde both can give you some on that. Clyde was out there just today. I would guess we're at least halfway completed, if not a little more. It's coming along good, looks really good. It really is coming out super nice.
Have you looked at it? It's fine.
Okay. Well, I guess if there's nothing else,
It's the high federal.
I think that would,
FA reversal.
yeah.
That's just later, okay.
No,
later.
mhm.
Okay, well, my motion to adjourn.
My second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kim. I'll be giving you a call tomorrow. I've got a few questions, but I'll ask you. Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks. Is Neil done?
Yeah.
Neil gone.